I'm going to show you some nice little gifts that the Americans have been dropping off for the ISIS guys. For those of you who don't know, the ISIS is a proxy army, like basically the same way the Mujahideen were supplied by the CIA to fight the Russians back in the 1980s to late 1970s to early 1980s. Well, they're using ISIS to overthrow Assad. Now, here's the thing, and this is, don't take my word for it. I mean, Joe Biden pretty much told you everything you need to know. Hey, nice M4 there, or M16 actually. Um, oh, no, look at that, another M16. How about that? I thought the terrorists only had AK-47s. Not this guy. He's got another M16. I wonder about that. But anyway, it looks like not once, not twice, but quite a few times, the U.S. basically keeps dropping weapons and supplies to, well, ISIS. Now, Joe Biden a few months ago from the making of this video came out and pretty much spilled the beans. And I mean, these idiots don't even realize what they're admitting to is extremely treasonous, extremely illegal. Now, I'm a Canadian. I'm not an American. But I mean, I'm just thinking from, nice M16 there, a global citizen kind of view where, the idea that they're arming these guys as a proxy army destabilizes the world, okay? And not only that, it's terrorism. It's complete terrorism that they do this. They've admitted enough. All they really have to do is, again, just need a brave law enforcement military to go and arrest these guys. You could start with Joe Biden's confession and work from there. And from there, you can pretty much bring down the entire system. Which will probably, I mean, you can only lie so much. Again, the CIA is the biggest terrorist organization on the planet. They make all these things happen. So basically, Joe Biden said, look, we use the CIA basically to send money to Saudi Arabia so that they could buy weapons and then send them to Libya so that they could give them to John McCain's buddies, the Free Syrian Army, which, guess what? Yeah, they did that. But then they said, well, and then some of them got into the wrong hands. Oh, geez, we never saw that coming. So, yes, they know. I mean, now let's look at it this way. The first time the airdrop, and I saw this on the CBC here in Canada, which is, that's mainstream media, okay? So they're like, oh, they accidentally dropped weapons to the ISIS guys because the ISIS guys uploaded on their channel. Now, the ISIS fighters themselves, you have to understand, yes, these guys are pretty much legit. They're terrorists. They're jihadis. That's what they are. They want the caliphate. That part of it's legitimate. The fighting, that's real. Oh, nice pineapples they got there. U.S. made pineapples. There you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We just decided to leave a whole bunch of Abrams tanks behind. The good news is those things will break down pretty quick. So, but still, But the thing is that they show this off and they say, yeah, they accidentally did this airdrop and they put, Al Qaeda put it, or ISIS put it on their website. But we have to understand who is ISIS. I don't know what they're going to be called in the future because the names keep changing. I think the one they're trying to push is the Khorasan group, okay, which if you know the biblical references to that, well, there you go, Islamic biblical references to that, you get it. Oh, there's John McCain with his buddies again. What if any of those guys are terrorists? So anyway, so it starts off, okay, a Facebook post back in, I guess, 2009, 2010, says we're going to go protest against Assad. Assad's a jerk, and we want better human rights and better, better in our country, better resources, better, they just want better living. So these people take to the street, and of course, Assad is a dictator. I'm not sticking up for the guy. He's a dictator, just like Saddam and Gaddafi was, but he was stability in the region. That's the thing you have to understand. That's the key. They don't want stability in the region. So, hey, again, another nice M16. So anyway, this Facebook post gets basically hijacked by the CIA. This group gets hijacked by the CIA after a few people get beaten up and arrested, or whatever. So then some people start picking up weapons. So sure enough, the CIA's in there, and I mean this is pretty much openly admitted. There's no lie here. Okay, and here's some of the beautiful rifles that were sent to them. So anyway, long story short, they basically take all these weapons and give them to the Free Syrian Army. Al-Qaeda starts coming across from other places like Libya. They start coming across from Iraq. They start coming across all over the place, right? So Al-Qaeda, wherever they are, they're starting to join up to fight Assad. Now, U.S. troops are starting to say, hey, you mean to say that you're giving weapons to Al-Qaeda And yeah, but that's the good Al Qaeda that was in Syria. You know, they're overthrowing the evil dictator Assad. You know, the one that wasn't, you know, basically attacking anybody in the region, wasn't, you know, was keeping stability in the region. Yeah, that evil dictator. Again, not sticking. Again, you know, this guy's also pretty white too, but nice M16s anyway. Uh, so anyway, long story short, they changed the knife, the name to Al Nusra Front, you know, which was another group. They just, you know, that's the one they use in the media. So there's a whole bunch of these groups that are there. They're all these little pocket jihadist groups. They're like gangs, right? But it's a tribal kind of mentality. And the thing is that they're there, so they can't call them Al Qaeda anymore because this is really a slap in the face to all the U.S. Marines and Canadian soldiers that died fighting Al Qaeda, and British and, you know, whoever else. You know, people are pretty ticked off on this. Okay, so what do? They changed it to Al Nusra Front. Now, these guys were supposed to be the good guys for a little while, too. And at the time, this is when you had David Cameron, Francois Hollande, all kinds of people saying, you know what, people should just join up and go fight for the Free Syrian Army, overthrow that dictator, go do that. And people were doing that. And even to help things out, and this was recently brought up, but I had mentioned it many times, in about 2010, 2011, Jordan, U.S. Marines basically trained about 4,000 troops in Jordan to fight Assad. These guys were basically Free Syrian Army, but they're not really Free Syrian Army. Free Syrian Army pretty much, which there were some so-called legitimate Free Syrian Army guys that just wanted to fight Assad. And overthrow Assad, but these guys pretty much got killed out by the Al Nusra Front guys. Okay, a lot of them guys, you know, because again, you know, everybody wants to be in charge, right? So all the leaders get, and all the loyalists to one group to the other, they fight within themselves. But for the most part, their main focus is to overthrow Assad, and after Assad, it's to destroy Saudi Arabia and Israel. So anyway, it keeps going. So now you have all these jihadi groups that are basically joining up together, you know, to fight a common enemy, which will eventually tear each other apart in the end anyway. Now, with the 4,000 troops that were trained by the U.S. in Jordan, you also have about 20,000 troops that were trained in Iraq. Maybe, don't quote me on the exact number, it was 15 to 20,000 or something like that, that were trained in Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that. To, you know, basically replace the Republican Guard in Iraq and stuff like that. That when they overthrew Saddam Hussein, okay, and George Bush did this on purpose. He disbanded the Republican Guard, and that's when the whole country went to hell. The Republican Guard was going to hand Saddam over. Why? Because they didn't want to have their country destroyed. Say, look, we'll do regime change, but leave the Republican Guard. You know, they're basically going to keep stability in the region. You know, people, you know, even if Saddam's gone, they're not going to go against the Republican Guard. But they disbanded the Republican Guard, and when they did that, basically it became no man's land, and all these other groups. Again, Saddam being the dictator he was, well, and in those areas you have to be a dictator. Why? Because this is why. You know, because you got groups like this. If you don't be, you know, you rule with an iron fist. You know, in a metal glove over there. You know what I mean? Like that has to be that way. You can't be nice over there. Nice doesn't work over there. So now you have all these people trained up to fight jihadists and stuff like that. You know, they get 13 years worth of training, and for some reason they just can't get an airdrop right. Apparently it was the Iraqi military that did an airdrop, and they didn't drop it. You know, they dropped it in the wrong spot, and ISIS got these weapons. Well, okay. You know, it happens, you know, but it happens again and again. They keep blaming the Iraqi, the Iraqi Air Force for dropping these weapons to Al Qaeda. Well, either A, replace the pilots because they're stupid, or B, they're in on it. You're telling me, and this is one of the things you hear from the U.S. soldiers, is that these guys are completely screw-ups. You can't train them. Well, they're wrong. They are training. They're saying thank you very much for the training. They're screwing up on purpose. If you haven't figured it out by now, they're saying thank you for the training. Now we know how to beat you guys. You know. So when the next batch goes, when the boots on the ground, I said there would be boots on the ground within 6 months, and unfortunately I lied. It was way less than 6 months to go fight. I mean, we're talking about 15,000 troops already back in Iraq now. But sorry. These are advisors. You know, they just happen to be able to carry rifles and stuff, but they're advisors. Yeah, no, it's that war's. If you haven't figured it out yet, when you arm the people you fight in the future, that's called good for business. Okay, war is a racket, and this is a perfect example of that. Okay, so now what you have is you have these guys that you have 20,000 guys against 5,000 or 6,000 ISIS guys who tell these 20,000 Iraqi soldiers, hey, you know what? You better put your weapons down, or we're gonna give you a hammering. And they're like, well, we outnumber them 4-1, and we're better equipped. We got tanks, we got Humvees, we got artillery, we got a whole bunch of stuff they don't have. Yeah, we better hand it over just in case. So do you really think that they actually were scared? No, they are, again, they don't understand the concept of Iraq. That's a country. They understand caliphate. They understand tribal. They did a coup. It's like the Taliban now. They're pretty much fully back in power where they were before. Maybe not in all spots, but in most spots. All they were doing is waiting for the U.S. to leave. So, of course, these new leaders that keep popping up, the ones that are able to speak English very, very well with British accents and stuff like that, cutting people's heads off. I'm not saying they're 100% false flag, but you do understand, like, propaganda. You're starting to see the signs in English and everything. That's a sign of propaganda, because like, these people, they're Arabic. They don't speak English. Most of them don't speak. They definitely can't write English. Most of them can't even write in their own language. You know what I mean? These are cave dwellers pretty much, and I'm saying that in a literal term. These people live in caves. Yes, there's some of them live in houses, but a lot of them live in caves. You know what I mean? It's a very, very poor region of the world. They have their rusted out AKs. Now they got their fancy chrome line barreled U.S. made M16s. And they also got anti-tank weapons, and they got artillery, and they even got one Black Hawk helicopter. The good news is the high-tech weaponry, like the Abrams tanks and stuff like that, will end up gun emplacements like the T-72s and the T-55s, because, again, the jet-powered helicopter engine in the back of the Abrams is a very high maintenance. I mean, the first few hot starts that they do to that thing is just going to, completely burn out the turbine, you know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about this thing staying in that, or if they throw a track, they're just not going to be able to fix it. But then you never know. Maybe they will, But just the idea that the U.S. left all that equipment behind. We're talking, thousands of vehicles that they just left behind. Okay. Do you really think that's an accident? I don't think it could be incompetence. I mean, it's not unbelievable that it's incompetence, but I really don't believe that's incompetence. It looks like you couldn't have planned it better, So to be that much of a screw up, to do airdrop after airdrop, arming ISIS again, and then go on the mainstream media saying we have to fight globalized terror everywhere because they can get you. They're in your socks. You know what I mean? Well, the thing is I know most of the troops that will go and fight this, they will fight very bravely. But once they figured out that they're shooting at people that are shooting at them with the exact same make and model of rifle that they have, they're going to start asking questions. I mean, the way they used to do it is they used to buy Soviet weapons and give it to these jihadists. Now they're buying, basically U.S.-made weapons and saying, oh, well, we just accidentally left the stuff there and they seized it all. Okay, that could possibly be true, but considering how it was done, that all these guys just basically got out of their way, and no, this group is basically assembled, with the leaders that are going with the CIA and stuff like that. And you're probably saying, how can you prove this? Well, just think about it this way. What's one thing all Muslims hate? Israel. Every Muslim hates Israel pretty much, right? Especially the ones that live in the Middle East. They hate Israel, and they also don't like Saudi Arabia very much. You're talking Sunni Shia thing going on there. That's bad blood there. And then of course everybody else in the region they hate too. But they really hate Israel the most. Okay, you're telling me, okay, all these jihadists that say we're going to go to meet you in America, and we're going, we'll see you at the White House type of thing. We're going to go blow you up there. We're going to kill you there. We're going to get here. We're going to get there. They're talking about attacking places, up to 10,000 miles away on the other side of the world. Meanwhile, they're basically fighting along the border of the country they hate the most, Israel, and they're not even trying to go into Israel. Don't you find that as odd? And these airstrikes, okay, yeah, they take out a few jihadist positions, but I think for the most part, you hear of what they're bombing. They're bombing oil refineries. I mean, when Saddam lit the oil refineries on fire, it was like, oh my God, that guy's a monster. Look at the damage he's doing to the environment and everything. But yet we're dropping JDAMs on it, doing the exact same thing, but this time it's justified. You know what I mean? So you can see the double standards there. But there's also the other problem. Is that here they are bombing, like, for example, water supplies, hydro, the very limited hydro that they do have there, and food supplies areas. They're basically going after Assad's army. They are taking out a few. They'll drop basically a $25,000 JDAM on a $500 pickup truck with a a 12.5 millimeter machine gun in the back, but is that really, a strategically good hit? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Again, I never doubt the soldiers that go fight this, but I think the soldiers are starting to catch on that they're just being used as pawns, and war is a racket, and ISIS is a proxy army. Again, they're going to notice it this time more, just because, again, when they put the boots on the ground in the kind of go mode where you got to go actually seek and destroy these guys, what they're going to find is that, again, this is kind of like what happened in the Chechen War. You had Soviet generals that were basically supplying the Chechen rebels. And I mean, like a lot of guys, the Soviet, soldiers were like, how come we keep fighting guys with the same equipment as us? Yeah, you can get okay with proxy of the region and whatever, but how do they keep getting resupply? Why don't they ever run out of ammo? Who's supplying them? And then they caught a few generals and they executed a few generals for doing that. Again, but the difference here is, and the difference between George Bush and Barack Obama is George Bush denied everything and worked covertly. You didn't know what was going on. Obama does it differently. He works overtly. He tells you what he's doing, but when it say, hey, it's either unconstitutional or it's illegal or you can't do that, well, then they just say, oh, okay, well, we're sorry. We'll just make it legal. That's what Obama does. So yeah, here they are trying to tell people, yeah, you got to go and fight in this war, for democracy and protecting the women and children and all this. Meanwhile, they're supplying the exact same people they're fighting. Um, does that make any sense to you? It makes economic sense because, again, you make all these weapons, it becomes an industry. You sell the weapons to people that you have to go kill. You have to make more weapons, right? So it's business, right? So again, with the Al Qaeda, I think a lot of people ISIS, whichever one you want to, and there was ISIL, and then there was a whole bunch of them, and now they're trying to push this. Which hasn't really caught on yet, but I think they're just going to stick with ISIS for a while. But the what you call it, the Khorasan group or whatever. I remember Obama saying, "Oh, this was the varsity team or whatever." The ISIS guys were the varsity team. But the thing is that again, these guys are being used the way they're supposed to be used. They want regime change to get Assad out of there. Now, at some point, this is going to start to really go south and awry, and that's what I'm thinking you're seeing in some places around the world. Now, with on the making of this video, there was a recent terrorist attack in France. I'm going to cover that in a separate video. I've already done 2 videos on that already, but you're going to see more stuff like that, and it will be legit. I know some people are questioning the thing going on in France. The more I look at it, the more suspicions I'm having as well. But I have to look at it better before I can make a determination on it. But you're going to see more terrorist attacks. These guys are everywhere because, again, it's the ideology. Because these guys have, again, these ISIS guys, they tell you where they're going to attack, when they're going to attack, and they put it on social media. Now, if you're a tactician, you don't. I mean, just think about it this way: in World War I or World War II, did the Germans, pick up the telegraph and start saying, "Hey, yeah, we're going to attack you over here at this date, this time. You watch out." No, they didn't do that. They ambushed you whenever they could. Same in World War II. They ambushed you when they could. They didn't announce their plans. But these guys, not only do they announce their plans, they're always announcing it in English. You know, don't you find that kind of odd? How many, like it is kind of odd. So it's. And I'm not saying they can't find people that speak English. Many people speak English around the world. But I just find odd that they find a lot of people that speak really good English. Now mind you, they are getting a lot of converts. They figure there's about 1,500 in France, a few thousand in England, and here there's probably up to about 300. Here is Canada, if you're wondering. So they are out there. These people are all around because it's an ideology. The thing is the people at the top, I think, are CIA, like al-Baghdadi and all them guys. They're definitely intertwined with the CIA for sure. I mean, look, Saddam was put in place by the CIA. Bin Laden was trained by the CIA, and this is open. This is open news. Like this is known. Like this is admitted. You can track it very easily. So why wouldn't they do this, right? So at some point, people are going to say, this is just getting ridiculous. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. Why are we even there, Well, again, this goes into the bigger geopolitical thing I was saying. Once they get Assad out of the way, they're using Assad to the stepping stone to get into Iran. Once they get into Iran, they can surround China. Once they can surround China, especially... I don't know how exactly they're going to get into Iran yet, because the Iranians, like the Russians aren't biting, and in Ukraine, and the Iranians aren't, they're not falling for it either. They're not, they have a pact with Assad, but they're choosing their strategies very, very, very closely. Um, Now the thing is that the idea what they want Iran to do is to attack Israel. If they can get an attack on Israel, they can get the justification. They go level Iran. There'll be A-10s flying all over the place there. But the thing is the problem with Iran is that Iran has a bigger, well-funded military in comparison to say like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. Saudi Arabia has a military, but the Iranians have a big military, and they have a lot of U.S. made equipment as well. It's older, but it's still, and they have a lot of rockets. That's where, long range rockets, like 1,200 miles and stuff like that. And their whole defense thing, again, the reason why they don't need nukes is their whole thing is that if Israel attacks us, we wipe Israel off the map with just the rockets. Now, Iron Dome won't be able to shoot down all the rockets coming from Iran. I mean, we're talking thousands of them, right? And that type of thing. So, and of course, China won't get involved until the U.S. is right on its doorstep. And then at some, again, there's going to be blowback from this, and we're going to see it. We're already seeing it, from the crazy snapping, so to speak. The crazies will always snap first. Basically, they're running people over. A couple of people have been ran over in France in the past couple of weeks. Yesterday there was also, or today or yesterday, from the making of this, there was also a cop that was shot, and it was considered a terrorist attack. But they pulled somebody over and then they shot the female cop. But again, it's just these crazy snapping. Although it's not linked to the terrorist attack that happened with the Charlie Hebdo magazine or whatever, which some people even questioning the validity of that it might be, I won't say CIA because we don't know, but there's some speculation there that terrorist attack might be a setup to that the French just let it happen. There's a few, again, I'll have to cover it on a separate issue because there's a few things that are happening right now from the making of this video geopolitically that kind of puts France in a kind of a tight spot right now. And of course, you take all the mass immigration everywhere in Europe and all that, people are starting to reject it because they don't want Islamification of the countries. And you have to understand, many of them are turning radical. And again, I know most Muslims are pretty good people. I don't doubt that at all. But the thing is that you can't, there's a culture difference. 58% of them believe in Sharia law, so you're going to get a lot of radicals on that. And when they see all this stuff going on, you get somebody that's looking for a cause. Well, they just found one. This is one person put it well. Said, look, this is like Woodstock for them. You know what I mean? This gives them a cause. I mean, the Middle East, there's not much to do in the Middle East. You know what I mean? It's like, so, this is a cause for them. I know it sounds sick and twisted, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? So I guess I'll leave it at that. But again, you see this stuff and you just say, oh my God, where does it end? And all these gaggle heads in Ottawa and in, Washington, that are making this, all this death, it is their fault, period. Somebody should be arresting these people. But what do they say? No, we have to fight terrorism so we can go save the women and children by bombing the snot balls out of them. Look, we're talking over 1 million Syrian refugees because of this. And this, again, wouldn't have gotten out of Assad. Is still holding off ISIS. I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to do that, but he's doing that. He is getting some backing from Iran in that sense. But again, with this kind of pressure, with again ISIS being armed, again, once they do take out Assad, what are they going to do with ISIS? That type of thing. So I don't know, because I'm sure as soon as they attack Israel. And they will. I mean, because these jihadists are crazy, right? As soon you watch, okay, as soon as they'll take out Assad, this will go on for months and months and months, maybe even years. The second they attack Israel, when they don't need them anymore, they'll wipe them out in like 2 weeks. You just watch. That's what's going to happen, and that'll tell you that it was a proxy army. Why fight Assad when you can get them to do it, right? But anyway, so yeah, so a lot more U.S. made weapons are now being dropped in again, supposedly by accident. And just think about it this way: you've got a C-17 Globetrotter dropping off American-made weapons to ISIS. Okay, now here's two things to consider. Number one, you really think it was an accident. Number two, the first time, second time, third time. I don't know how many times they've done this already that we know of. Do you think they're going to get it wrong 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row? to arm these guys? You really think, is the U.S. military that incompetent? I don't think so. I think this is a pretty deliberate job, considering the amount of calculations that go into this stuff. Can it happen? Sure, flukes can happen, but I don't believe in that kind of a coincidence or a fluke. They're basically arming ISIS. And I think people should know this, and you should spread this video around. If I'm wrong, people say, no, here, you got it wrong. Show me up. Sure, by all means. But again, I think it's, I do understand they're going to get some weapons from dead soldiers. I do understand that type of thing. But considering the amount of stuff that they just left in Iraq, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit too coincidental that it was, they knew it was going to be commandeered at some point. Oh, but that was left for the Iraqi army. Look, if it takes 13 years to train an army, they're not trainable. So either A, they're not trainable, or they're putting on a show. And these guys were on the other side all the time, that happens too. So again, now that and then of course when Obama or whoever the next president is that gets into an actual boots on the ground war, and okay, right now what they're doing is they're telling the so-called advisors, basically, wear shoes, don't wear boots, so we can't say there's boots on the ground. You know what I mean? But there's boots on the ground. You got almost 15,000 people there, I think, is add up all the personnel and everything like that. From Canada, we have about 600. I don't know how many British are there, but there's British in there, France in there, all the coalition forces are in there. You know what I mean? And the thing is when they start sending people out on patrol again, and they're getting shot, but most importantly, they're getting, when the guy says, "Oh, good, look, there's an Abrams, it's one of ours," and you hear, that's what's going to happen. Next thing you know, GI goes home, and Widow's there with her 2 kids and saying, "What happened to my husband?" And their father say he was killed. How was he killed? An Abrams tank took him out. Oh, was it friendly fire? No, it was an ISIS tank. Well, don't we make Abrams tanks? Yeah, but they kind of captured it. Well, how did they capture it? In a big battle? No, we left it there, and they just kind of grabbed it. Did they kill a whole bunch of people to get the tank? No, it was just kind of sitting there in the middle of a parking lot. Well, did they kill a whole bunch of people to get into the compound? It wasn't in a compound, it was just sitting in a parking lot, and they came and took it. With probably a full tank of gas in it. Or jet fuel, I guess. Something like that. But he fought bravely. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how you going to explain that to people. You know what I mean? I think this is going to just blow up on. I think the future is looking bright. Here's why: because at some point this just gets so ridiculous that the whole CIA, fire them all. There's no good CIA. Fire them all. They're terrorists. NSA, fire them all. They're terrorists. DHS, fire them all. They're terrorists. The Congress, fire them all. Throw them in jail for the rest of their natural lives. In fact, maybe many of them. And even previous presidents like George Bush and stuff like that, which right now the fact that you can't retry George Bush for crimes against humanity, you can't try him for that anymore. They made that legal. Can you imagine that? Same with Tony Blair and all that. Okay, what I say is, okay, well, you can't try him here, but maybe you can try him in the countries that they destroyed. How about you let the Iraqis try George Bush and Obama, and Afghanistanis tried George Bush, Obama, and Cheney, and Rumsfeld, all those guys, and Tony Blair and all that. How about you let them guys say, let them have their day in court over there. See what they have to say about it. Then you'd see some justice. Throw Obama in there too, because he's just as bad, right? So you get rid of the Congress, okay? Arrest all these corrupt people because they're going to get everybody killed. Dispatch those agencies that are not doing any good whatsoever. They're just, they're too corrupt. You can't fix them. Just get them all. Start something new that's transparent, that the people have control over. No secrecy, no privacy. Just keep it, a proper intelligence agency that actually protects the country, not just, does these proxy things. Rechange the law so that they can't do stuff like that. But most importantly, grab your Constitution, read it. Read it again. Maybe read it a third time. Make sure everybody signs a waiver saying, I have read the Constitution, I understand the Constitution, and I will uphold the Constitution, or I will spend the rest of my natural life in jail for treason by breaking the amendments of the Constitution. And once you have that kind of accountability, then you might have something. And we can do something like that here with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada. But we need to add to that to be able to put these people in jail. So, and the thing is you have to understand all governments are the same. It was the liberals that got us into Afghanistan, and we can't leave. Even with the conservatives, we can't leave. So they're not really conservatives. They're just, they're neocons more than anything. I do call the Harper government a socialist fascist government. I know a lot of people think that's completely contradictory to what they are, but it's not. When you look at their policies, it's socialist fascist. And, basically they're in bed with big government. When you have big government in bed with big corporations, you have fascism. Okay, and where the socialist part of it is that they haven't really cut that many. They've cut some social programming and done some. They have done some a fair amount of austerity, but they haven't really took the axe to the government, and they've made the government bigger, not smaller. So they're definitely socialist fascist, and that's why I say that. But they're also very neocon and all anything for Israel kind of mentality, which we got to get out of that. And I think people are starting to say, you know what, let Israel deal with its problems itself. These wars for Israel is just insanity. That's from the neocons. You know what I mean? In the neocon thing, Israel has to take care of itself. If it wants to wipe out its neighbors, let them. But if it's not up to us to have our people killed just to protect them for what reason exactly? Why are they so important? Why is the Middle East important to North America at all? I mean, we can be completely self-sufficient from them. We don't need them. Let them rule themselves. If they want to live in caves and clunk each other over the head, fine. They want to, let the tribal lines be reestablished and it'll get peaceful again. Because obviously by arming these people, it definitely doesn't do any good, does it? Unless you're just trying to genocide the entire area, which I think is a bigger, I mean, again, there won't be any Muslims 200 years from now because they'll have killed each other. You know what I mean? Which is wrong. I mean, you need to let this die down, but the best way is let them run out of bullets, let them run out of, let them go back to clubbing each other, because at least you don't have to, they're not going to kill as many people in the crossfire. It's like, two people start clubbing each other in the middle of the street, and all of a sudden, poor little, Abdul whacking Muhammad over the head, and, little, Durka gets smacked in the face in between the two of them with the clubs, and, like, oh well, whatever, but at least it's at a slower rate. But anyway, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So I know some people might not like this kind of video, but it is a dose of reality of what's just really going on. I mean, again, if you want to find out what's going on, always look at the weaponry. The weaponry tells you so much. Who is supporting who? Because these people, again, when you look at Iran's military, you're like, why does the U.S. military have funny flags on the side of their Abrams? Again, especially when they get into it with Iran, it's going to be a mess, because it's like there's going to be so many friendly fire incidents. I mean, you know what the Iranians are going to do? They're going to just basically paint American flags on the side of their tanks. Nobody will know who's who. You know what I mean? It's because they're using, again, it's the same problem they have, like, say, what's going on in Ukraine now. There's a lot of friendly fire incidents because everybody's driving around in T-72s. Are they Russian or are they Ukrainian? Nobody knows. It's like, that 500 meters, you're not going to be able to tell what's what. So it's like, shoot now or we might not get a second chance. You know what I mean? And then, oh crap, it was one of ours. And stuff like that. So again, just stuff to keep in mind. So I guess these jihadis should just send a thank you letter to Obama and the Congress for all these nice weapons and stuff like that, and thank the Iraqi Air Force for having such bad navigational skills so many times in a row. Very, very, very helpful for them and stuff like that. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. If you like this kind of content, there will be a link down below. By all means, make a donation to help out the channel, and thank you very, very much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, and like. Be true to yourself, be true to others, and always, always do the right thing. Have a great day. G'day, hi, and welcome. Okay, I'm just going to show you some nice little gifts that the Americans have been dropping off for the ISIS guys. For those of you who don't know, the ISIS is a proxy army, like basically the same way the Mujahideen were supplied by the CIA to fight the Russians back in the 1980s to late 1970s to early 1980s. Well, they're using ISIS to overthrow Assad. Now, here's the thing, and this is, don't take my word for it. I mean, Joe Biden pretty much told you everything you need to know. Hey, nice M4 there, or M16 actually. Oh no, look at that, another M16. How about that? I thought the terrorists only had AK-47s. Not this guy, he's got another M16. I wonder about that. But anyway, it looks like not once, not twice, but quite a few times, the U.S. basically keeps dropping weapons and supplies to, ISIS. Now, Joe Biden, a few months ago from the making of this video, came out and pretty much spilled the beans. And I mean, these idiots don't even realize what they're admitting to is extremely treasonous, extremely illegal. And I'm a Canadian, I'm not an American. But I mean, I'm just thinking from, nice M16 there, a global citizen kind of view, where, the idea that they're arming these guys as a proxy army destabilizes the world. Okay, and not only that, it's terrorism. It's complete terrorism that they do this. They've admitted enough. All they really have to do is, again, just need a brave law enforcement military to go and arrest these guys. You could start with Joe Biden's confession and work from there. And from there, you can pretty much bring down the entire system. Which will probably, I mean, you can only lie so much. Again, the CIA is the biggest terrorist organization on the planet. They make all these things happen. So basically, Joe Biden said, look, we use the CIA basically to send money to Saudi Arabia so that they could buy weapons and then send them to Libya so that they could give them to John McCain's buddies, the Free Syrian Army, which, guess what? Yeah, they did that. But then they said, well, and then some of them got into the wrong hands. Oh, geez, we never saw that coming. So, yes, they know. I mean, now let's look at it this way. The first time the airdrop, and I saw this on the CBC here in Canada, which is, that's mainstream media, okay? So they're like, oh, they accidentally dropped weapons to the ISIS guys because the ISIS guys uploaded on their channel. Now, the ISIS fighters themselves, you have to understand, yes, these guys are pretty much legit. They're terrorists. They're jihadis. That's what they are. They want the caliphate. That part of it's legitimate. The fighting, that's real. Oh, nice pineapples they got there. U.S. made pineapples. There you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We just decided to leave a whole bunch of Abrams tanks behind. The good news is those things will break down pretty quick. So, but still, But the thing is that they show this off and they say, yeah, they accidentally did this airdrop and they put, Al Qaeda put it, or ISIS put it on their website. But we have to understand, who is ISIS? I don't know what they're going to be called in the future because the names keep changing. I think the one they're trying to push is the Khorasan group, okay, which if you know the biblical references to that, well, there you go, Islamic biblical references to that, you get it. Oh, there's John McCain with his buddies again. What if any of those guys are terrorists? So anyway, so it starts off, okay, a Facebook post back in, I guess, 2009, 2010, says we're going to go protest against Assad. Assad's a jerk, and we want better human rights and better in our country, better resources, better, they just want better living. So these people take to the street, and of course, Assad is a dictator. I'm not sticking up for the guy. He's a dictator, just like Saddam and Gaddafi was, but he was stability in the region. That's the thing you have to understand. That's the key. They don't want stability in the region. So, hey, again, another nice M16. So anyway, this Facebook post gets basically hijacked by the CIA. This group gets hijacked by the CIA after a few people get beaten up and arrested or whatever. So then some people start picking up weapons. So sure enough, the CIA's in there, and I mean, this is pretty much openly admitted. There's no lie here. Okay, and here's some of the beautiful rifles that were sent to them. So anyway, long story short, they basically take all these weapons and give them to the Free Syrian Army. Al Qaeda starts coming across from other places like Libya. They start coming across from Iraq. They start coming across all over the place, right? So Al Qaeda, wherever they are, they're starting to join up to fight Assad. Now, U.S. troops